guys, welcome back to the Adventures of Cosmic. I'm Cosmic, and we are on part 5 of Blackmore Sisters. Great mistake. We're somewhere in chapter 14. Sorry, 13. It says 14 on my phone. So anyway, let's get to it before I start playing the audiobook. I don't want to talk too long because I am a chatterbox. Here's email. YouTube, if you want to read it, go ahead. I don't care. Let's get into this book.
One who is a killer, Morgan said. His eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I didn't kill anyone. Sure you did. Right in downtown on Beach Street. He had a paranormal energy burn, and I know it was you because I saw the licorice beside his body. Morgan gestured toward the man's licorice-chewing mouth. Confusion washed across his face. You're trying to trick me. You're the paranormal killers. We are not killers. Jolene punctuated the last word by thrusting her fingers out toward the man. Normally, a stream of potent energy would fly from them, but now only a small dribble of dots slowly floated out toward him. He reacted by bringing his left hand out from behind his back, revealing some sort of reflective mirror gizmo. The dots of energy bounced off the mirror and shot straight back at Jolene.
Oh,
Ouch! No. Jolene grabbed her arm where she'd been hit with the ricochet of her own energy. Fiona had reacted quickly. Before the energy could bounce back at Jolene, she flung the stones in her hand toward the man. But he was quicker. He pivoted, holding the mirror in her direction, and the stones bounced off it and sped back toward Fiona. They hit her jacket, making little singe marks. Down feathers poked out of 2 of them and fluttered into the air. Morgan felt relieved that Fiona's attempts to use the stones as weapons hadn't been too successful. Otherwise, she might have been badly hurt. But now, it was up to Morgan and Celeste, and neither of them had any paranormal fighting abilities. Morgan did have one thing, though, her intuition, and she used it now to sense which direction the man would strike. He came toward her, and she jumped to the left, while at the same time Celeste kicked out toward his gun hand, connecting with it and sending the gun flying. Hey! He turned toward Celeste, his fists up as if to hit her. Then he hesitated. Morgan could see emotions warring on his face as he stared at Celeste. The hesitation gave her the advantage, and she lowered her shoulder, then plowed into him like a linebacker and knocked him to the floor. Fiona ran for the gun. Morgan leapt on the man's chest, Celeste on his legs. Jolene grabbed a length of rope from the pile of debris Celeste had moved earlier. They turned him over on his stomach and then secured his hands behind his back. Morgan was surprised and suspicious that he didn't offer much resistance. They flipped him back over. Surprisingly, he didn't struggle. Okay, you girls win. Something in the man's voice niggled at Morgan. He sounded resigned, too resigned. And then she realized something odd. The man hadn't used any paranormal moves on them, aside from the mirror. Morgan suspected he didn't have any paranormal skills, so just who was he? I suppose you'll kill me too now, he said, as they moved him to a sitting position. He screwed his eyes shut and hung his head. Go ahead and get it over with. The girls exchanged confused looks. He was acting very odd for a killer. Did he really think they had killed someone? I told you, we're not killers, Morgan said. Well, not unless we have to in order to defend ourselves, Jolene added. The man looked up at Morgan, and she noticed his clear green eyes were shiny with tears. What kind of a killer started crying upon being captured by girls? Was this some kind of trick? But Morgan's gut instinct told her the man was sincere. I'm sure you didn't have to defend yourselves from my brother. He wasn't a violent man. I saw the burn mark on him, and I know that's the sort of mark paranormal killers make, the man said. Morgan's brows shot up. Your brother? You mean to tell me Hale Swain was your brother? The man hung his head and nodded. Then you must be Gunnar Swain, the archaeologist, Celeste said. Another sad nod. But your brother had a map to the Finch farm. Why would an archaeologist and his brother be interested in that if it wasn't to find the relic? Jolene asked. And why follow us around? Fiona added. You just don't get it. Swain's voice was pitched with anger. All you care about is using the relic for your own evil purposes. Didn't you ever think it might be used for good, to help people? The sisters stared at him, surprised by his outburst. No, I didn't think so, he continued. Well, what does it matter now? You'll kill me just like you killed Hale, and Mom will die all alone. I failed her. Swain's voice cracked, and he hung his head. Morgan's heart softened as she watched a fat tear drop onto his lap. Oh, for crying out loud, cut the whining. Jolene rolled her eyes. We aren't going to kill you. You aren't? But you killed Hale. Swain looked at them skeptically. For the umpteenth time, we didn't kill your brother. Morgan felt sorry for him, and her intuition was telling her he wasn't the enemy. She didn't know how far she could trust her intuition, but she doubted he'd killed his own brother. But I saw his body, and a black licorice beside it, just like those in your pocket. Swain looked down at the Black Crow licorice box peeking out of his top pocket. Yeah, I was there. Hale had taken off. He was always so impetuous. Anyway, he rushed off with the map, and I went out to find him. I found him all right, but not before someone else got him first. I must have dropped the licorice. I wasn't really paying much attention after I saw what had been done to him. Someone killed him, either to keep him from getting to the relic or to find out what he knew about it, Celeste suggested. But why did you think it was us? Swain shrugged. I'd heard about you girls through some of my underground contacts, and when I saw the burn on him, I knew no normal person could have done that, so I just assumed it was you. I knew you lived here, and I figured you'd be after the relic, so I followed you around, figuring you'd know where it is. We are, Jolene said, but we wouldn't kill for it. That doesn't explain why you and your brother are so hot for it, though. Were you that eager to make a big discovery and get in the papers? Swain scrunched up his face. Is that what you think this is about? Trust me, the relic itself isn't any big discovery as far as the archaeological community is concerned. In fact, it probably doesn't mean squat to anyone outside of the paranormal community. But we don't really care about any of that. Hale was so eager to help our mother get better that he rushed off. Well, I suppose now it doesn't matter. What's to become of me? Morgan's heart melted. She believed Swain was sincere. He wasn't after the relic for personal gain. He wanted it because, somehow, he could help his mother. She didn't know what was wrong with his mother, but she could sympathize. She glanced at her sisters. Well, since we aren't killers or kidnappers, and you don't seem to be a threat, I guess we'll just let you go. Fiona, Celeste, and Jolene nodded, and Morgan bent down to untie his hands. He looked up at them incredulously. Really? Yes. I don't know what you heard about us, but we're the good guys. We're just after the relic to keep it out of the hands of people who would use it for bad intent. But if you didn't kill Hale, then who did? There are other paranormals who aren't as nice as we are. They want the relic too. One of them killed your brother. Jolene frowned at Swain, who was rubbing his wrists. You're not a paranormal, are you? He shook his head. No, I'm just a simple archaeologist. I found out about the relic through my contacts. And this? Morgan gingerly picked up the mirror weapon. It looked ancient. The frame was bronze with symbols around it, and the middle piece, which she'd thought was a mirror, appeared to be mica. Did you get this from your contacts? Swain nodded. I paid a pretty penny for it. It's Mayan. It's said to bounce energy back at the sender. And it worked a treat, too, didn't it? I wasn't sure if it really would. Yes, it did. Morgan looked at her sisters. This could come in handy. I might be willing to trade it for the relic. Swain started toward the hidden compartment.
Hell no.
Morgan stepped in front of him. Not so fast. We didn't say we'd let you have the relic. Oh, well, I don't want to keep it. I just need it for my mom, and then I'll give it right back to you guys. Jolene snorted. Right, like we'd trust you with it. Swain looked hurt and desperate. You can come with me, please. She's dying. Morgan's heart pinched. Clearly, Swain knew more about the relic than they did. He thought it had some healing powers. Morgan wished she could help him. Celeste must have felt sorry for him, too. She looked at Morgan, then at Swain, her face pinched. Maybe we could try to help him out? I mean, it can't hurt. And anyway, I'm dying to see what this relic is. Sounds like it has something to do with healing. Morgan pressed her lips together as Celeste started toward the hidden compartment. Don't bother. Celeste's brow creased as she turned and looked at Morgan. What? Why not? The relic isn't here. The compartment was empty. Chapter 14. Jolene's brow creased. What do you mean? It was empty the whole time? Yep. I was just about to tell you that when Indiana Jones here burst in on us. Morgan tilted her head toward Swain. Swain marched over to the compartment and opened it. He bent over and peered inside, then slammed the lid shut. I don't believe it. He paced the length of the altar, running his hands through his short, dark blonde hair. It seemed like we were so close. Morgan raised her left brow at him. We? He shrugged sheepishly. Well, you. I was mostly following, but don't take that to mean that I don't know how to find something. I am an archaeologist, after all. But I figured why do the work when I could let you do it for me? Celeste narrowed her eyes at him. You had a map, so why were you following us? Swain looked at them as he paced. It seemed like you girls had some sort of an advantage. Plus, it's your home turf. The map led me to the graveyard at the Finch farm, and when I saw you there, I figured I'd let you do all the work and just follow behind. So, you did look in the cornerstone before us, then, Fiona said. Yep, it was empty. This is frustrating, Jolene said. These clues keep leading us to the wrong place. Maybe this is the right place, and someone got here before us, Swain said. Morgan shook her head. No, when we came in, there was a layer of undisturbed dust on the floor. No one has been here in decades. We must have interpreted the clues wrong, Celeste said. What exactly were the clues? Swain asked. The epitaph on the gravestone, Jolene answered. Of course, there was that last line. Last line? Swain pivoted to look at Jolene. Sounds like you have some sort of question about it? We're not sure exactly what it is, Jolene admitted. Let's just go read it then. Swain started toward the exit. That's the thing. Morgan's voice stopped him in his tracks, and he turned back around to face them again. We can't. Why not? He asked. His eyebrows crept higher and higher on his forehead as they told him about the freak snowstorm in the graveyard, how the gravestone was smashed to pieces, and how they couldn't read the last line since it was buried. Swain was thoughtful for a few seconds, then said, So, these bad guys, they must think the clue is on the gravestone too, then. I mean, If they were the ones that created the storm and smashed the stone. Yes, that's what we think, Fiona said. But is it really? Swain asked. I mean, why do you all think that? Well, you said yourself, the map leads there, and Celeste, well, Morgan hesitated. Should she tell Swain Celeste talked to ghosts? Seeing as he'd already admitted he knew they had paranormal gifts, she didn't see the sense in keeping it a secret. She talked to Ezra's ghost. Ezra Finch? He was in my research, too. I think he is the key. Swain started pacing again. But maybe we are going about this all wrong. Maybe he hid it in plain sight. Here you go with the we again, Jolene said. There is no we. You just tried to shoot us. That was an honest mistake. I thought you'd killed Hale. But now I can see that you aren't killers. Swain held up his chafed wrists. Because you let me go. So, we should team up. Jolene scrunched up her face. I don't know about that. We usually work solo. Yeah, you've been doing a great job so far. Swain waved his hand at the empty compartment. Morgan looked down at it and grimaced. He did have a point. But maybe you are stuck on one track, Swain continued. You might need a different perspective. This happens in archaeology sometimes. You get stuck going down the wrong path, and sometimes you just need to reevaluate what you think you know. What do you mean? Celeste asked. Well, so far, you've been operating under the assumption that Ezra Finch hid the relic somewhere, in the cornerstone or this box, but maybe he hid it in plain sight. Plain sight? Yeah, out in the open where it's not obvious that it's something special. You girls know the family history better than me. Is there somewhere he might have put it where it would seem like it was just normally supposed to be there? Morgan glanced at her sisters. We're not sure. What about that guy you keep visiting in the nursing home? His grandson, is it? Maybe he would know, Swain suggested. It's his great-grandson, Jolene said, and he's not really that reliable with his information. Plus, he doesn't know Ezra had a magical relic. He doesn't necessarily need to know. It's a magic relic. You can ask if his great-grandfather had one. Swain narrowed his eyes at them. You know, where one would normally be. Morgan shifted her weight on her feet and looked at the ground. Swain stopped pacing and gave them a sideways look. I'm sure you can name several places the relic would be camouflaged, or where it wouldn't call attention to it being something special, right? Of course we can. Morgan avoided eye contact. How could they know where the relic would look normal if they didn't even know what it was? Meow. Morgan had almost forgotten about the cat, but here she was, weaving her way around Swain's ankles. He bent down to pet her, and a low purr reverberated around the room. So, it seems like we can help each other figure this out, Swain said. I say we team up. Jolene shook her head. I don't think that's in our best interest. Besides, it sounds like that would benefit you more than it would us. You don't have much to offer us. Au contraire. I think you need my help. Don't forget that I'm an archaeologist and am used to deciphering clues. I've brought more artifacts to the light of day than any other archaeologist this decade. Celeste jerked her head up to look at Swain. Light of day? So, that boat in the cove is yours. Swain nodded. Yes. Morgan could feel Celeste tensing, her knees slightly bent, as if she was readying to get into her karate stance. And that poor woman on the boat, Celeste said. What did you do to her?
What?
Do to her? That's my mother. A cloud of sadness passed over Swain's face.
Oh.
She's sick. That's why I want the relic. To heal her. I'm not interested in getting credit for it or even keeping it. In fact, you girls can have it after I'm done. What's wrong with her? Morgan asked softly. Cancer. Stage 3.
Aww.
Swain turned his desperate eyes on Morgan. Don't you see? The relic is my only hope to save her. Morgan's heart melted. She sensed he was telling the truth, and the truth was they were running out of leads. She could relate to his desire to cure his mother. It wasn't that long ago that she thought her own mother was lost to her forever. If they had a chance to help cure Swain's mother, and they didn't take it, Morgan would never forgive herself. More importantly, though, her gut instincts were telling her that joining forces with the archaeologist was the right thing to do. I think we should team up with him. Morgan eyed her sisters hopefully. He'll probably just follow us around anyway if we don't. This way we can keep an eye on him. Jolene sighed. I guess you're right. And Belladonna seems to approve of him. Fiona pointed to the cat, who was still enjoying Swain's attention. Belladonna took a moment out from her slit-eyed purring to wink at Morgan. And he does have that Micah thing that could really come in handy against paranormal bad guys, Celeste pointed out. Swain broke out into a smile. You girls are making the right decision. Plus, teaming up with me will probably benefit you girls as much, if not more, than it will benefit me. How's that? Jolene asked. Because I know what the relic actually is. A mortar and pestle? Morgan frowned at Swain. But those aren't very rare. I have several of them right in my shop. Yeah. How would we know if we even had the right one? Jolene asked, as she passed Swain a mug of coffee across the island of their kitchen, where they'd all come to after they left the church. Swain accepted the coffee, and taking the rectangular box of licorice out of his pocket, he tipped it toward the girls. Licorice? No, thanks.
That sounds good.
4 of them
I
declined.
love licorice.
Swain put the box back in his pocket and leaned over to grab his coffee. A black crow licorice fell out and bounced on the counter. Darn things are always falling out. Swain picked up the licorice and dropped it into his cup of coffee. That explains why we were always finding them everywhere, Morgan said. You left a trail like Hansel and Gretel. Swain grimaced. Anyway, the mortar and pestle we're after is special. It's imbued with potent healing properties. Celeste snapped her fingers. That makes perfect sense. Ezra was a pharmacist, and back in the day, he would have used a mortar and pestle to compound his remedies, even the chemical ones. No wonder he was so popular, Fiona said. His remedies were magic. Morgan's left brow ticked up. Boy, I wouldn't mind having one of those in my shop. Swain winked. Maybe one of your mortar and pestles is the one. Morgan's eyes widened. Could it be?
Got
Swain
it.
shook his head. No, I don't think so. I think you'd notice right away that the remedies you made were very powerful. Besides, this one, I'm told, is easily recognizable as being different. Different how? Luke, who had been sitting in the corner silently, narrowed his eyes at Swain. He hadn't been too happy that the girls had taken Swain in, but like the rest of them, he'd learned to trust Morgan's instincts, which he was now doing reluctantly. Swain tipped the licorice box in Luke's direction. Luke shook his head, and Swain shrugged, then picked a licorice out of the box and popped it in his mouth. That I'm not entirely sure about, he said as he chewed. I figure it's marked in some way so that one would know it's not just an everyday mortar and pestle. Jolene shifted the carnelian-filled towel she was holding to her head into her left hand and picked up her cell phone with her right. I can text Brody to see if I can get a list of the items stolen from the museum. Maybe there will be something obvious, but I think we need something more specific to go on than just that it's different. Maybe there's a clue to that in the epitaph on Ezra's gravestone, too, Celeste suggested. The bottom line? Joanna asked. Maybe, Celeste answered. Too bad we don't know what it said. We could ask Thaddeus, Fiona suggested. He might remember. Or maybe he has some paperwork from when the stone was engraved. I just wish I could remember. I should be able to. Jolene sounded defeated. You're probably exhausted, Morgan said. In fact, I'm pretty tired myself. We should all get to bed early tonight. I want to get started first thing tomorrow. Good idea. With all the excitement in the graveyard and at the church, we forgot to stop by Sticks and Stones. Fiona glanced out the window at the dark night. It's too late now, but we need to go first thing tomorrow. We should be wearing those in case things get cagey with Bly. Joanna nodded. You girls better make that a priority. Those amulets could save your lives. That's right, Luke said. You girls need the protection. Jolene let out a loud sigh. Oh, especially since my unique gifts don't seem to be working. I can't even defend us against a child. Well, at least we have this gizmo now. Fiona pointed to the mica mirror. I was wondering what that thing was, Luke said. What does it do? Morgan explained how the ancient object surface was mica, and it would reflect energy back at the sender. So, basically, whatever you try to do to your opponent ends up happening to you. Luke's lips flattened into a thin line. Wait a minute. Are you saying Swain was able to redirect what little paranormal powers you have back at you, and he had a gun? How did you guys manage to defeat him? Swain swallowed his licorice hard. That is rather embarrassing. It was luck on our part, Morgan said. Celeste took a big chance and chopped him with a karate kick. Surely a big guy like Swain could have taken her out. Luke glanced at Swain's broad shoulders and muscular arms. Probably, Celeste said, but he hesitated, and that gave me the opening I needed to tackle him. Then Morgan and I jumped on him, and we tied him up. Morgan's eyes narrowed. Hey, why did you hesitate anyway? Swain flushed and dipped his head. My mother told me never to hit a woman, so when it came down to it, I couldn't fight back. Luke burst out laughing. Well, I guess chivalry was your downfall. He gave Swain a friendly punch, and Morgan's heart lifted at the show of camaraderie. Luke had been understandably aloof when they brought Swain home, and she was glad to see his frozen demeanor was thawing. Luke's job was to be suspicious of strangers and to protect the girls from them, but Morgan knew in her gut that Swain was not a threat. Not only that, but Belladonna curled up and purring in Swain's lap was the only reference he needed. The cat was an extraordinary judge of character.
Yep.
About your mom, Joanna turned her concerned amber eyes on Swain. I think we should bring her here. It can't be good for her to be on that boat. We have plenty of room. Oh, I don't know. Swain looked around at them. It might be smart, Luke said. Bly is going to find out that you guys are partnered up now, and he might retaliate. In fact, I'm a bit surprised he hasn't done something already. Your boat is out in the cove unprotected, like a sitting duck. A look of alarm passed over Swain's face. I hadn't thought about that. He turned to Joanna. But I don't want to intrude. Nonsense. Joanna waved her hand dismissively. It will give me something to do. Okay. Swain glanced around tentatively. But she is very sick and has a private nurse. We know all about sick, Joanna assured him. And there's plenty of room for the nurse, too. Plus, you won't have to worry about her being safe if she's here. We have lots of protection. You can focus on finding the relic. Well, that settles it then. Swain brushed his hands together. Sounds like this is going to be a great partnership. Don't get too excited, Luke said. Now that Bly and Overton know you guys are working together, They're sure to want to knock you all out of commission. We need to find that relic fast, before someone else ends up dead. Chapter 15. Fiona stood in the doorway of Sticks and Stones and basked in the familiar sights, smells, and sounds. The cottage, which had been in her family for centuries, had been one of her favorite places since childhood. When she'd grown up, she and Morgan had turned it into a shop, with Morgan's herbal remedies on one side and Fiona's healing crystal jewelry on the other. The cottage was off the beaten path. It was the off-season now, with no tourists about, so the cottage was blanketed in silence. A single bird tweeted in the barren trees outside as Fiona breathed in the earthy smell of herbs and old wood. The morning light filtered in through the window, illuminating the hand-hewn pine counter that doubled as Morgan's work area, and the place where they rang up purchases. Fiona started toward her workbench on the far end of the room, eliciting a creak from the dry wood floor as she crossed. Morgan rushed in behind her, slamming the door shut against a gust of cold air and snow. "Gosh, it's cold out. And in here." Fiona's words came out in a cloud of condensation. "We should turn the thermostat up." Morgan did as she was told. Noquit was a summer tourist destination. That's when the girls did most of their shop business. In the winter, they came to the shop infrequently to fill the few orders they got from their regulars. They kept the heat on low when they weren't there, a habit ingrained in their thrifty Maine Yankee blood. The heat whooshed on. Fiona pulled off her gloves and rubbed her hands together as she surveyed her workbench. She'd been there just last week, working on the amulets and another project for herself. A sterling silver dragonfly necklace with iridescent golden yellow citrine wings. She didn't know what had prompted her to make the necklace. The idea had just come to her. Once it was stuck in her head, she had to get the piece designed. She pushed the piece aside and sat down at that table. There was no time for that now. She had to focus on the amulets. "I feel like we should be out looking for the relic, but I do have some customer orders, and the amulets are important." Morgan, who was now standing in front of her tall apothecary chest, looking at the glass jars of herbs, echoed Fiona's thoughts. "I know. I'll try to hurry. I just have a few adjustments to make." Fiona plugged in her soldering iron and rummaged in the desk for the tools she would need. "I hope the others get Swain's mother settled at home okay." Morgan pulled a glass jar filled with brown twigs off the shelf. "I left some carnelians with instructions at home, so they can start applying them right away," Fiona said. "It will be strange to have guests, but I think Mom was glad to have someone to mother in the house. Since she's been home, we've been the ones mothering her, and I don't think she likes it very much." Joanna's 7-year imprisonment under Dr. Bly's hand had left her almost lifeless. Since she'd been home, she had made enormous improvements, but it was true that the girls had been a bit overprotective, and Fiona had noticed her mother getting more and more aggravated with them as her health improved. "Another reason I wanted to come here this morning is that I felt like Jolene could use a morning to sleep in," Morgan said. "That accident took a lot out of her, and she hasn't rested. It must be emotionally draining for her not to have her paranormal gifts working." Fiona pressed her lips together. "Of course, it would be a lot less stressful on her if my shotgun rocks actually worked." "You just need to believe, and they will," Morgan said. Fiona glanced at the dragonfly necklace. That's just what her father had always told her when she was a little girl. She just had to believe. The memory of her father, who had died years ago, brought a smile to her lips. He had been good with rocks, too. That's what had gotten Fiona interested in them. She could remember many afternoons spent with him, going over the different types of crystals and their special properties. And the dragonflies. Her gaze stole over to the necklace again. There always seemed to be dragonflies around when she'd been with her father. It was almost as if he'd had a way of attracting them. A few times he joked that a dragonfly should have been his family crest. Maybe that was what had prompted her to make the necklace. Old memories surfacing. Her thoughts were interrupted by the door opening, which surprised her. She didn't think any shoppers would have been coming out this way. A young woman with wavy strawberry blonde hair that hung to her waist came through the door. A gust of wind swirled in with her, curling around her ankles and depositing a pile of snow on the floor as she turned to shut the door behind her. Meow! Belladonna slipped through the crack of the door just before the woman closed it. The cat looked up at the woman, her ice blue eyes narrowing to luminescent slits.
Whoa.
Belladonna hopped sideways, away from the surprised woman, then ran under a chair on the far side of the room where she crouched and stared out at the room. Sorry. Fiona exchanged a look with Morgan, and she knew her sister was wondering the same thing. How the heck did the cat get here? I don't know what is wrong with that cat, Morgan apologized. Can we help you? I hope so. The woman looked warily over at Belladonna as she walked forward, giving the cat a wide berth. Something niggled Fiona's memory. The woman looked familiar. Do we know each other? The woman smiled. Yes, I'm Wendy North, Thaddeus Finch's health aide. We met at the nursing home. Oh, that's right, Fiona said. I didn't recognize you with your hair down like that. You look different. What can we do for you? Thaddeus told me about your shop, and I thought I'd come in and see what you had. I'm looking for a necklace. Oh, well, I use a variety of crystals. I can make pretty much anything you want. Fiona waved her hand over at the jewelry case, where various items were on display. Wendy narrowed storm cloud gray eyes at the case. Her lips pressed together as she scanned the rows of jewelry. She shook her head. No, I don't see anything that appeals to me here. Oh, is there something in particular you are looking for? Fiona asked. Wendy's hair swirled around her upper body as she swung around to look at Fiona's workspace. She pointed at the amulets that Fiona was working on. Something like that would be perfect. That's obsidian, Fiona said. They're lovely. Are they for sale? Wendy asked. These particular ones are spoken for, but I might have something in stock. If not, I can certainly make you one. Fiona walked over to the old oak map chest, where she kept her stock, and rummaged in the chest, opening drawer after drawer to look for an obsidian necklace. So, how is Thaddeus today? Morgan asked from the other side of the shop. Oh, he's okay. He has his good and bad days. Wendy waved her hand, and a pile of papers on the table near the chair Belladonna was crouching under fluttered off and floated to the floor. Belladonna let out a low, guttural growl and a hiss. I'm afraid you can't put much stock in what he says, though, so the answers he gave you the other day might not be true. Oh, we know about that. We're just old friends of the family, trying to engage him to get him to talk about things he's interested in, Morgan said. Fiona knew this wasn't quite true, but she figured her sister didn't want Wendy knowing the real reason they were visiting Finch. Fiona opened the last drawer. A beautiful obsidian necklace with a large stone lay right on top. How about this one? She turned toward Wendy, the black stone sparking off the light as it twirled from a silver chain. Very nice. I'll take it. Wendy reached out and snatched the necklace from Fiona, then swirled her way over to the cash register. She paid Morgan, who put the necklace in a gift bag. At the door, Wendy turned back to face them. Your shop is lovely. Thanks for taking the time to dig out the necklace for me. Thank you, Fiona said. Say hi to Thaddeus for us. I will. Wendy reached for the doorknob, and Belladonna hissed, causing the woman's brows to mash together. I guess your cat doesn't like me. She's persnickety, Morgan apologized. Wendy narrowed her eyes in the direction of the chair and cracked the door open, setting papers and herbs flying in the air. Wow! Belladonna flew out from under the chair and raced around the shop.
Waiter.
Chasing the papers and herbs, she leapt into the air, twisting and turning, then plopped onto the ground and raced around the edge of the shop again. Hey, cut that out, Morgan said as the door slammed shut. She tried to intercept the cat, but failed. Belladonna made one more loop around the shop, hopping up into the jewelry drawer Fiona had left open and swatting out an earring that she proceeded to bat around the floor. Give that back. Fiona chased the cat to the back of the room, through the bathroom, and then back out front where Belladonna finally batted the earring so hard it sailed into a crack between the old floorboards and the wall. Fiona crouched at the wall, stuck the nail of her finger in, and tried to pry the earring out. Nice going, Belladonna. Fiona glared at the cat, who was all wide eyes and innocence, perched on a chair, grooming her right paw. It's stuck, and I can't get it out. I don't know what's gotten into her lately. Morgan stood, looking at the cat, her hands fisted on her hips. But we really don't have time for this. We need to get back home and pick up Jolene and Celeste and get to the nursing home. I know, Fiona stood, brushing the dust off her knees. I'll just finish up the last repair. The necklaces need to sit for a while to let the metal harden up, but we can swing back and get them after we visit Finch. Sounds like a plan, but please hurry. Morgan glanced at her watch. We don't want to give Bly too much time to work on his plan to find the relic, or to stop us from finding it. Chapter 16. Celeste had spent a restless night, filled with dreams of wrestling energy-infused mortars and pestles away from paranormals with bad intent. When she finally woke up, the sun had already risen, and a quick glance into the driveway showed her that Morgan and Fiona were gone. Luke and Swain, however, were not. She could hear the low sounds of their voices downstairs. She couldn't make out what they were saying, but assumed they must have been making plans to transfer Swain's mother. She could hear her mother bossing Jolene around as they prepared the rooms down at the end of the hall. A smile flitted across her lips as she pictured how exasperated Jolene must be getting. Her little sister didn't like being told what to do. Celeste was glad they were helping Swain. He seemed like a good guy. His motive to help his mother was selfless, and if Morgan's instinct said they should work with him, then that was good enough for her. Hopefully, they could find the relic, help Swain's mom, and then hand it over to Dorian, who would keep it safe in some secret government hiding place. If only they could figure out where the relic was. Celeste sat on her bed with a sigh. She felt like she could help out more. She knew Ezra left a clue because he'd told her himself, but things would be a lot easier if he would just come out and tell her where it was. Her fists clenched in frustration. What good was her special gift if she couldn't contact these ghosts whenever she wanted? Why so glum? The voice startled Celeste, and she whirled around to see her grandmother, or rather her grandmother's ghost, standing on the other side of the room. Graham! Celeste's breath rushed out. Her grandmother's ghost had a habit of popping up when Celeste was deep in thought. You'd think she'd be used to it by now.
She's not, though.
You scared me. Her grandmother laughed. They teach us that over here, you know. Ghosts are supposed to scare people. Celeste frowned. Really? Nah, I just do it because it's fun. Grandma's ghost cocked her head to the side as if listening. What the heck is going on here? Are you guys opening a bed and breakfast? Celeste laughed. No, we're just having some guests. Grandma nodded. I heard you guys had some goings on. In fact, that's why I'm here. Celeste's brows shot up. Really? You mean you can help us? Maybe. I had a visit from Ezra Finch. You know, I knew him back in the day. Of course, he was quite old back in my day, but we used to all go to him for his remedies. Celeste nodded. Oh. Well, anyway, the guy always did think he was the cat's meow. But he said he had an important message for you, so here I am. Celeste leaned forward. What's the message? Grandma's ghost swirled over to the window. She lifted her semi-translucent arm and pushed the curtain aside. Lovely day today. Celeste gritted her teeth. One thing she learned about Grandma's ghost was that she loved to play up the big moment. She was stretching it out, making Celeste wait. The message? Celeste prompted. Oh, right. The ghost turned from the window, her forehead creasing. He was very cryptic. Of course, he was that way in life, too. Anyway, he said you made a grave mistake. Celeste frowned. No kidding. We misinterpreted the clues. That's not a very helpful message. Are you sure that's what he said? Yes, but I felt like he meant it in a literal way, not that you just made a mistake, if you get my drift. Graham's ghost drifted up and down to stress the last word. Celeste chewed her bottom lip. More literal. What did that mean? And then it clicked in. That's it! She rushed over to Graham's ghost and attempted a hug, which only resulted in her feeling wet, cold, and a little queasy. Thanks. I know exactly what he meant. She brushed the water vapor off her arms and rushed from the room. Celeste took the front stairs 2 at a time, arriving in the foyer just as Morgan and Fiona were coming in the front door. I know what we did wrong, Celeste said, then frowned at Fiona when she noticed Belladonna curled up in her arms. What were you doing with the cat? She must have hidden in the car again. Fiona dumped the cat unceremoniously on the floor. She was at Sticks and Stones. What did you mean when you said you knew what we did wrong? Morgan ignored the cat, who flipped her tail up at them as she slunk away. I had a visit from Graham, and she gave me a message from Ezra. Celeste continued down the stairs to the oak floor of the
Babe.
He said we made a grave mistake. Morgan made a face. He said that before, didn't he? Fiona shrugged out of her jacket. And I think Thaddeus said something like that too.
Oh no, Nathan,
Yes,
what'd you do?
but didn't you think he was using the word grave as an adjective? I know I did. But I think he was really using it as a noun. We made a mistake interpreting the gravestone. Yeah, no kidding, Jolene said from the top of the stairs where she was carefully helping Joanna down. Celeste ignored her sister's sarcastic remark and grabbed her cell phone from the foyer table. The meaning of the epitaph isn't what we thought. We need to look at that again. Her fingers tapped on the screen. I'll get Cal over here. He's good at this stuff. Maybe I can help. Swain appeared at the top of the stairs behind Joanna and Jolene. Sure, we can use all the help we can get. Morgan hung her coat on the hall tree. Let's go to the kitchen. Good thing we have a big kitchen, Jolene muttered. She helped Joanna to the last step and then reached for the wheelchair. Can't you see that I can walk? Joanna pushed her away. I came down the stairs, didn't I? With my help. Fine. Then you can help me walk into the kitchen. Celeste, Morgan, and Fiona went ahead, leaving their sister and mother to battle their way into the kitchen behind them. Celeste filled the Keurig with water and turned it on. Her phone pinged. Cal's just down the street. He'll be here in 5. Cal arrived just as they were all settled in, with coffees in hand. His brows raised up when he noticed Joanna seated in one of the tall kitchen bar stools instead of the wheelchair he was accustomed to seeing her in. She beamed at his unspoken question. I'm walking much better now.